What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So here we are the morning after the Oscars of 2025, and as you can see from the headline, Oscars 2025 upset: how Madison beat Demi Moore for Best Actress despite losing 3 major awards. So yeah, bit surprised. So just to set the context, I did not watch the Oscars at all. Didn't watch 1 second, 1 minute of it. As far as looking and monitoring the results, I was just following, various sites that were just providing live updates as each award was presented. So just to set that out there on the table, didn't watch 1 minute of it. With that said, we've been talking about the awards for quite some time, not just this one, but as the last few have come up, whether it was the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, Golden Globes. We've been monitoring, not watching. I didn't watch any of those either, just monitoring as far as for any horror films that were coming up that were nominated, and if any of them happened to have won. And obviously we know the story about The Substance and Demi Moore as far as winning awards at all 3 of those. And going into the Oscars, it seemed like she was pretty much not the guarantee, but the odds were heavily in her favor that she was going to win Best Actress. So the fact that she did not win, and Mickey Madison won for her role in Anora, definitely disappointed. Big disappointment. And this is not to say that she wasn't deserving of winning, wasn't to say that her performance wasn't deserving of winning. I do wonder, though, part of me does wonder, were they, with it being the Oscars, were they not willing to give it to Demi Moore because the role was a horror film? I do wonder about that a little bit. We've got confirmation. There's been reports recently of, I think were 3 voting, 3 individuals who have voting powers for these for this award, for the Oscars, had come out and even said for one of the awards they had not even seen Dune 2, and which was why they didn't even vote for it, because they couldn't even finish watching the first Dune film because they felt it was just boring. So they didn't even watch part 2, which led into their rationale as why they didn't even vote for it for one of the awards, which I think it's absolutely shady. You should not be a voting member then. You should not have any voting rights for the Oscars in any way, shape, or form if you're not one watching all the movies and not judging the movie that's in front of you based off a previous one. So for example, you shouldn't be judging Dune 2 based on your experience or your view of Dune 1. That's absolutely shady. And those, I hope they do identify who those individuals are, and I hope they can no longer vote going forward. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's a fair shake as far as the other films that may have been in those categories. So we're not gonna read through this entire article. Again, we know the story. I mean, Demi Moore was on her way out of acting. She had said as much. This film is what brought her back in, got her back, reignited her passion for acting, got her back into it. And there are some things in this article, though, what we're going to point out, that I'm wondering if it also could have played into the fact that The Substance didn't really win at all. I mean, so we're going to cover off on that as well, but especially for this award. So again, we're going to skip past. I mean, this just really talks about, as far as Demi Moore and Nora's small, her career and some of the films that she's been in, as far as these ones down here. So I mean, obviously her being only active within the past just a little over 10 years, so like 12 years now, obviously, compared to Demi Moore, who's been around for quite some time, since like the early 80s. So obviously she has much more experience under her belt. And that doesn't mean you're guaranteed an award. It just means you've been obviously in the industry for a little bit longer than the individual who won. So again, it doesn't really mean much at all. This goes on to talk about, this section here goes on to talk about Demi Moore, as far as I just mentioned, early 80s, some of the stuff that she was in. Does talk about her role in body horror, the film Substance, act as sort of a career renewal for Moore, which we knew that already. We've covered that. Now, this is where it starts getting into some of the information I want to cover. So, Madison had a strong end to awards season before the Oscars. So, as we go into this, it does talk about how right here, Moore took home a Screen Actors Guild Award, a Golden Globe, a Critics' Choice Award, along with a plethora of regional critic awards. And right here, it seemed like that her career renewal would be topped off with the Best Actress nod at the Oscars, but Madison gained ground on her in the final weeks before the ceremony. And it talks about that right here. So the biggest sign that the newcomer could be a serious threat to Moore was Madison's taking home the British Academy Film Award for Best Actress in a Leading Role, beating out Moore herself to do it. She also won the Independent Spirit Award for Best Lead Performance, again beating out Moore. Madison's chances seemed to improve by the week, and it obviously culminated with her taking home the ultimate prize in cinema. So the other thing that's just it's a bit surprising that those two awards, unless those two awards are held higher than the three that Demi Moore won, unless that's why that those may be holding a little bit more weight as to why she came out on top in winning this award. This is the other thing, and I've talked about this before, and I've mentioned this about other horror films as well. So it says here, the romantic comedy drama slowly picked up more steam as more people saw the movie and word of mouth spread. It wound up grossing $41 million at the box office on a budget of just $6 million, and heads began to turn in the direction of writer director Sean Baker as his independent film. And then it goes on to talk about the final evidence was in the form of the Oscar nomination. So going back to this point, I've mentioned this before about the substance. I think what hurt the substance overall is the fact that the box office was, if it was there, it wasn't in my area. And then I don't even know if there really was a box office release. So give me a second. Let's take a look at that. Because I do know, as far as from a streaming perspective, it primarily was just right to Mubi. Yeah, so it says here the box office was 18 million. Budget was 18 million. Box office was 77 million. So it had a good, probably just as good, if not better, than Anora did. Now it says here that release dates, it was released in May, did get a May release in 2024 was the canons. It then got a September release in the UK and the United States, and then France in November. But I don't recall this film releasing anywhere in my area. I don't know if that was, again, a very limited release, theatrical releases in certain areas, but it was not in my area. And I'm in a pretty big city on the West Coast. So again, not something that happened on my end. And then again, it went right to Mubi as far as streaming for quite some time before it became available across other platforms to view. So word of mouth probably may have been a little bit more difficult for it to spread out there. Now, again, I don't know. We've talked about that before. That may have had a role in the substance, maybe not doing as well in the Oscars as we thought it was going to do. And we've covered off on this as well. Madison being Demi Moore for the Best Actress at the Oscars is still surprising. I agree. We definitely thought that Demi Moore was going to come out on top with this one. But I'll put the link for this article in the description of this video below. The final count for the horror films that we were monitoring. So we were monitoring The Substance, Nosferatu, Alien Romulus, and The Girl with the Needle. So The Substance, as we all know, had 5 nominations, only came out with 1 win, which was for makeup and hairstyling. They lost actress in leading role. They lost directing, Best Picture, and then writing for original screenplay. They lost all of those. Nosferatu, surprisingly, of their 4 nominations, did not win at all. So they lost in cinematography, costume design, production design, and makeup and hair and styling. So that was a bit of a surprise as well. Alien Romulus, we had very little hope or even thoughts of Alien Romulus winning visual effects. We saw them get nominated, but I had no expectation they were going to win that category. Now, the other one that I was really hoping for was The Girl with the Needle for international feature film. They did not win. Now, I was really pulling for that one. We've done the trailer review on that film. We've done a full movie review, spoiler review of that film. I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend if you like psychological thrillers, and it's pure psychological thriller. It's not your normal slasher gore horror film. Check that one out. It's a Danish film, subtitled black and white. It is just post World War I, So that's the setting, but again, highly recommend it. It was a great film. So it was disappointed that that one didn't win either. So last thing I want to mention on the Oscars, and I'm not going to spend too much time going through this, I just want to talk about the topic, which is this here. Let's go back to the top. The fact that, for example, they call out various names here. One of the more recent names we know about is Michelle Trachtenberg, that her, along with many others, were excluded from the Oscars in the Memoriam segment. So we saw Morgan Freeman come out and speak a little bit about Gene Hackman, and we saw obviously, the various others who were remembered during this segment, but there were a ton, including the list here, and this doesn't even include them all. There were several high-profile, impacting actors and actresses that had passed during this time that should have been included, that for whatever reason were excluded. And I just think that, don't get me wrong, Gene Hackman had a huge impact on the industry. He was obvious. When you think about if we just look at body of work, his body of work was much bigger than Michelle's, obviously. But that doesn't mean she should be excluded. She passed, I think, a couple days before Gene Hackman. So there's no reason why she, along with many of these others, should not have been included. So again, I think that was a huge misstep, disrespect by the Oscars, by the Academy, by, for whatever reason, excluding these individuals. And I think it's unfortunate that many others that were there, or for whatever reason, aren't speaking out about this. They're just either ignoring it, or they're just not giving it the time of day. Yet they have no problem standing on their soapboxes for other things, but yet when it comes to their peers not being remembered, I think that's just a disgrace. So anyways, that is going to do it for our Oscar review. Again, our primary focus, I'm not going to go through the entire list of all the categories and who won, who didn't win. I primarily wanted to focus on just the horror films that we were following, and it was those 4 horror films. It was a disappointing night. I am glad to see, though, that The Substance did at least win 1 award. Obviously, it is nice to know that The Substance, Nosferatu, Alien Romulus, and The Girl with the all got their Oscar-nominated films. However, again, for The Substance, it's disappointing. It was just as disappointing for Nosferatu, Alien Romulus, and The Girl with the Needle. But again, Alien Romulus, I had 0% hope, 0% thought that they were going to win that category. Now, as far as the other 3 films, I was really hoping they were going to pull something out. But obviously, the voting didn't go their way, so it is what it is. And again, that's not to take away from any of those who won those categories. I'm sure they're all well deserving, but as someone who covers horror on a daily basis, and when we finally see horror films breaking through and getting not just one but various nominations at large awards ceremonies and shows, and they are winning up until you get to that major one, and it just doesn't work out your way. So hopefully this year will bring us a lot of great horror films, and maybe next year we'll be able to continue that push forward and maybe win one of these out. That'd be nice, because I think, again, a lot of good stuff's happening in horror that I think is getting ignored and overlooked because it is considered horror. So hopefully this tide continues, and we continue to see a change for the genre, and it gets taken a bit more seriously, because again, this was I think a breakthrough just to get this many nominations for at least 2 of these films. So that is some progress, but not the progress we wanted to see with this award show. So, all right, everyone, that's going to do it for this update. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Also, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, we'll see you at the next one. Peace.